El Paso, Dayton could define August, a historically pivotal political month. But they're the same, now. El Paso and Dayton are identical with Newtown, San Bernardino, Aurora, Orlando, Sutherland Springs, Blacksburg, and a host of other places. This is why we fear August. Beware of August. No month on the House and Senate usually abandon Washington for the fabled August recess. When it comes to some of the weirdest, most influential events in American and global politics unfold in August. Volatile political town halls erupt into chaos. We've had occasional. Iraq invaded Kuwait on August 2, 1990, sparking the first Gulf War several months later. The U.S. dropped. The East German government erected the Berlin Wall in August 1961. President Richard Nixon resigned in August 1974. The U.S. lurched into the Vietnam War as Congress approved the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution in August 1964. The measures stated, few in Washington will forget the lasting political impact of Hurricane Katrina lashing New Orleans in August 2005. Beware the Ides of March, wrote Shakespeare in Julius. The president claimed there is blame on both sides, adding there were very fine people on both sides. Last August featured the double political whammy of a guilty verdict in the federal corruption trial of former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort and a guilty plea by former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen, within minutes of each other. Senior John McCain. In early August 2011, Congress approved the Budget Control Act to impose mandatory spending caps and hike the debt ceiling. Congress lived with, it's pretty simple. August is it's pretty early in this August. But we think we know, of course, just a day or two ago, we thought impeachment or a spate of retirements by House Republicans could define August. Maybe another tweet, the impeachment front bears watching this month. More than half of all, a mantra we often use in this space, it's about the math. It's about the math. The House of Representatives is scheduled to be in recess until September 9. But August but El Paso and Dayton could well demarcate this August. House Democrats have a pre-scheduled conference call at noon 8 Monday. The call was from the perspective of Democrats, there are several pieces of legislation the House could tackle. Multiple sources tell Fox News the Disarm Hate Act is ready to go to the floor. The bill bars people. Fox is told there's still work to do on extreme legislation banning high-capacity magazines is ready, but Democrats would still need to massage that subject with rank-and-file members. Despite the din, House Democrats are not yet ready to advance a bill to outlaw assault weapons. Such arms. Some Democratic sources tell Fox pressure could mount for Pelosi to recall the House this month, considering the Democrats' rhetoric on guns. Moreover, Pelosi and McConnell can recall their respective bodies at their own discretion. That said, in addition, Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution says the President may, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses, or either of them. No chief executive has deployed this gambit since President Harry Truman. And so here we are. August is proving the abnormal is just the norm in August.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.